Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military with Samurai channel, and today we will discuss the situation in the world on the 30th of May of 2026. Today we have a lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the conflict on the territory of Ukraine, where during the previous 24 hours both the Russians and the Ukrainians were attacking each other with hundreds of drones. Let's first talk about the Russian attack. During the previous 24 hours, lots of reports were received from the northwestern parts of Ukraine, from the Rivne region. And these videos were received from this area. According to information we have, an oil depot or an oil base was damaged and probably completely destroyed by Russians as a result of attacks with the Iran drone. So this is the video that was published first during the May 30th of 2026, and this is the second video that was also published from the area. As for these videos, we don't see this oil base itself, but we see a huge fire broke out right after the Russians attacked this territory. If we zoom in, we will see this oil base. This is exactly the territory that was attacked by Russians. And this is a very important video because this video is not just about another attack that was carried out by Russians. This is the video about Russian attempts to establish complete fire control over the logistics of Ukraine through the northwestern parts of the state. As we can see, the Russians right now are trying to do the same thing as the Ukrainians managed to create through the southern regions. I would like to remind you that these days we received lots of very interesting updates from this territory because the Ukrainians almost every single day use dozens of drones with the purpose to attack Russian vehicles, oil tanks, oil trucks, and so on. And as a result of these attacks, the energy and oil situation in this area collapsed completely. Now the Russians are trying to do the same, and as for the attack in the Rivne region, the Russians were testing their capabilities because usually the Russians attack the western parts of Ukraine, so the territory to the west of the river of Dnipro, only during massive attacks. And now we see that the Russians are trying to practice the situation to attack this part of Ukraine on daily basis, so every single day to use drones to attack oil bases, to attack oil trucks, to attack fuel bases, and so on, with the purpose to create similar situation that the Ukrainians managed to create on the area between Crimea and the Donetsk region. Another important territory, the Russians attacked the northeastern parts of Ukraine. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of pictures from this area. For example, in these pictures, we can see how Ukrainians were trying to stabilize the situation after another attack. It seems that according to these pictures, the Russians destroyed a building or a warehouse that the Ukrainians use for probably storing depot ammos or probably drones. Another important territory is the settlement of Shostka. During the previous 24 hours, lots of videos were published from this area. According to local sources, during the night, the Russians attacked a railway station in this area, and as a result of attack, we can see lots of explosions took place, and furthermore, we see a secondary detonation. This morning, pro-Ukrainian sources published this video, and here we can see the consequences of the overnight attack. And as you can see, as a result of the Russian attack, the railway station was almost completely reduced to ruins. Most likely, the Ukrainians brought some ammo or explosives or probably drones in the direction of the city of Shostka with the purpose to use them later to attack deep inside of the territory of Russia, but the Russians discovered the situation, they attacked the city, and probably everything was destroyed. Now let's discuss the situation in Sumy. The Russians also attacked the city during the previous night. Lots of videos were published. As a result of attack, the Russians destroyed probably completely a substation in this area. And in this video, we can see the moment when the Russians were attacking the power station in the northern parts of the city of Sumy. And as you can see, the Russians right now use FPV drones to attack the settlement. And as you can see, the Ukrainians currently can't do anything with these FPV drones. As you can see, as a result of this attack, another substation was almost completely destroyed by Russians. Now let's move further and let's discuss the Ukraine's attack that also took place between the 29th and the 30th of May of 2026. The Russians, more precisely the Ukrainians, as you can see, stopped attacking deep inside of the territory of Russia because most likely the Ukrainians came to the conclusion that it's not enough when just a drone can hit something deep inside of the territory of Russia. So that is why the Ukrainians shift their focus in the direction of Crimea, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhia. And these days we are talking a lot about vehicles, about fuel bases, about trucks, fuel trucks that were destroyed as a result of the Ukraine's attack. In this video we can see another truck that was destroyed in the Kherson direction. And every single day we receive more and more videos of this type, and all these attacks carried out by the Ukrainians led to the situation that the energy crisis through these territories is brewing and intensifying. Another important thing is that during the previous night the Ukrainians also published this video, and during this video, in this video we can see how the Ukrainians were attacking objects through the area, and lots of explosions were recorded. For example, here we can see how the Ukrainians using FPV drones were attacking air defense positions, how Ukrainians were attacking oil depots, fuel depots, and oil bases, and so on. And as a result of attack, the Ukrainians managed to deal significant damage to energy facilities of the city of Feodosia. This satellite picture was published during the day, and in this satellite picture we can see a big fire anomaly that are taking place in the northern parts of the city, which means that most likely during the previous night the Ukrainians attacked this object of energy infrastructure, these fuel tanks, and as a result of attack these fuel tanks were damaged significantly. Right after the Ukrainians finished their attack in the direction of Feodosia, local sources began publishing updates about situation with fuel. The consequences of Ukraine drone strikes on the oil depot in Feodosia are becoming apparent. Following this attack, gasoline has run out at gas stations across Crimea. So the Ukrainians used this situation with the purpose to create a crisis in this area, because we understand that right now the Russians are trying to carry out an offensive operation in the direction of the cities Zaporizhzhia and OREKHIV, and it is very important to have fuel, because without fuel the Russians will not be able to advance. Now let's discuss the situation in the Zaporizhzhia direction. During the previous 12 hours, additional changes on the ground were recorded. For example, this is the situation by the end of the 29th of May of 2026, and this is the situation by the end of the 30th of May of 2026. Pro-Ukrainian sources published this video, and here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians in the area of the settlements of Rivne and Takmachka. So during this video, at least 3 episodes were geolocated. One of these attacks took place here, another one took place here, and another one took place here. As a result of these attacks, and based on these attacks, we have adjusted the map. So this is the situation by the end of the 29th of May, and this is the situation by the end of the 30th of May of 2026, where we basically colored the gray zone and infiltration area as the territories under complete Russian control. And from these positions, we see that the Russians are just 10 kilometers before the OREKHIV agglomeration. So let's take, if we calculate the distance, 10 kilometers and 150 meters between the edge Russian positions and the OREKHIV agglomeration. The Russians will continue offensive operation within this area with the purpose to outflank the settlement of OREKHIV from the northeast and to attack basically the Ukrainians from behind. The OREKHIV offensive operation is a very important offensive operation, and if the Ukrainians lose control over the city of OREKHIV, this can lead to complete collapse of the entire defenses of the city of Zaporizhzhia, because as soon as the Russians are able to establish artillery control over the city of Zaporizhzhia, we're not talking about FPV drone control, we're not talking about missile control or aviation control, we're talking about the artillery control. As soon as the Russians are able to establish artillery control over the city, then the Ukrainians would be forced to announce complete evacuation of the city, and the city of Zaporizhzhia is not just another city on the territory of Ukraine. This is the biggest industrial hub of Ukraine, and lose control over this industrial hub can lead to unpredictable consequences for the Ukraine's military infrastructure and military capabilities. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Konstantinovka direction. During the previous 24 hours, we received lots of very important updates, and telling the truth, right before we started making this video, several pro-Russian sources and pro-Ukrainian sources published a video And according to this video, some sources and experts managed to find several geolocations, and probably according to these geolocations, we can make a conclusion that the defenses of the city of Konstantinovka have collapsed completely. Geolocations were recorded through the northern, through the central and the western parts of the city, and through the eastern and the northeastern part. So basically, probably before the next video, we will adjust the map and we will color everything probably in red to the bottom and to the left of this red line. So everything in the city of Konstantinovka would be colored in Russian favor. We're talking about these territories because we start receiving updates from the northern parts and from the central part, which means that the Battle of Konstantinovka most likely will be finished much earlier than expected. We believe that the battle for Konstantinovka will be finished during the next 2 weeks, and then the Russians will begin clashes for the settlement of Alexeyevka-Druzhkivka. As of the settlement of Alexeyevka-Druzhkivka, during the previous 24 hours, we received lots of videos from this area, and all these videos are related to just one situation. The Russians began destruction, and the Russians began destroying the logistics and bridges along the river of Kryvyi Tarets with FPV drones and aviation. In this video, we can see how the Russians with FPV drone was flying below the bridge along the river of Kryvyi Tarets, trying to find explosives that was established by the Ukrainians. And when the Russians found explosives, they attacked them, and as you can see, as a result of this attack, the bridge was completely destroyed. So this is the first bridge that was destroyed by Russians. Later, we received another video, and here we can see how Russians destroyed this bridge as well. So just during the previous 24 hours, 2 videos were published from the settlement of Alexeyevka-Druzhkivka, how the Russians were destroying the logistics between the southern and the northern parts of the city. And these videos probably signal that the Russians are about to finish the battle for Konstantinovka, and then they will attack the settlement of Alexeyevka-Druzhkivka from 2 directions, from the south and from the north. And it is important for Russians to disconnect, to cut these 2 parts of the city into completely separate positions and separate front lines. So most likely the battle for Alexeyevka-Druzhkivka will last not so long as the battle for the city of Konstantinovka. And after the end of this battle of the Alexeyevka-Druzhkivka, the main battle begins, the battle for the Druzhkivka-Slovyansk conglomeration. We are talking about these 3 cities. And with the end of the battle for these 3 cities, the Russians most likely will change their demands for the end of the conflict between Ukraine and the Russian Federation. At the same time, the Russians intensify their FPV drone activities through the city of Kramatorsk. Almost every single day we receive more and more videos of how Russians attack and destroy vehicles, military vehicles through the city of Kramatorsk, through its eastern and the southeastern parts. The battle for the Druzhkivka-Slovyansk conglomeration is intensifying. As for the northern directions, during the previous 12 hours, we received changes. The Russians improved their positions in the area of Karaichne. These are the changes on the ground between the dates. Yesterday, the Minister of Defense of Russia announced control over the settlement. Today, several pro-Russian sources clarified the situation on the ground. As for the Kharkiv direction, during the previous 24 hours, the Russians began bombing and attacking positions of the armed forces of Ukraine in the area of Rivne. In this video, we can see how Russians using aviation were bombing edge positions of the armed forces of Ukraine. This video confirms that most likely the Russians are going to continue advancing further along this big forest with the purpose to move as deep as possible and probably towards the settlement of Stary Saltov with the purpose to establish complete control over this territory and over the dam to the east of Stary Saltov. The Russians are tasked to block this logistic line and not to allow the Ukrainians to use this territory for the logistic purposes in the northeastern part of the Kharkiv region. The Kharkiv offensive operation is intensifying. Another important video we received from the city of Kupiansk. The map has been adjusted here as well. So this is the situation by the end of the 29th of May, and this is the end of the 30th of May. During the previous 24 hours, pro-Ukrainian Ukrainian sources published this video, and here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians in the northwestern and the northern parts of the settlement. Based on this video, we have adjusted the map. We see that the Russians continue improving their positions through the city of Konstantinovka, through the city of Kupiansk, and probably, most likely, in coming days, the Russians will once again establish complete control over the settlement, and the Russians will force the Ukrainians to fall back from this area. As of now, the battle for the north and Kupiansk direction still continues. Now let's discuss the situation in the north and Kharkiv direction. The Russians during the previous days and during May and April of 2026 captured the settlements of Vitinarna and Granov, and now the Russians are trying to enter the settlement of Kazachya Lopan. These days we receive more and more updates on this matter. The Russians continue bombing and attacking positions of the armed forces of Ukraine further to the south, where the Ukrainians keep their reserves with the purpose to later send them in the direction of the border for the stabilization purposes. So the situation is quite complicated in this area, and it seems that Ukrainians show less and less resistance for Russians. We have covered most of the updates regarding the conflict on the territory Ukrainians of the 30th of May of 2026, and probably during the upcoming nights between the 30th and the 31st of May of 2026, the Russians will carry out either another imitation of a massive attack or a massive attack using thousands of drones and hundreds of missiles. And that's it for today. The Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.